Welcome back, and welcome back again to the guys online. We're brilliant having you with us. Second keynote, our first keynote of the afternoon, the price of failure to respond to change. Modern philosopher and technocrat Elon Musk says the alternative to change is a disaster. So what happens if FM doesn't make the right response to this new wave of technology? We have a superb speaker and a man who can be relied upon to pull no punches. CEO of Leesman, the global independent authority on what people really think of their workplace experience. Please welcome our good friend, Tim Oldman.
Afternoon, everybody. Let's get straight to the point. We've been indexing workplace since 2010, and Martin, David, Elliot first invited us here, I can't remember if it was 9 years ago or 10 years ago. And what we've tried to do during that period, whenever we presented, this is the fourth time Leesman has presented, we've tried to use different tactics to bring insights and information to you that hopefully change the way you do things. If you do one thing tomorrow that's different from what you do today as a result of the data I'm going to show you, I will have delivered a successful presentation this afternoon. If you don't, then my time was wasted and your time was equally wasted. So I want you to change something tomorrow. I want you to do something different tomorrow as a result of either what I've given you this afternoon or what any one of the other speakers has done for you today. We've tried different things. We had David arm wrestling with Dave's cousin. Kyle, last time he was here, was electric shocking people live on stage to try and get you to understand the gift that you have in terms of the responsibilities that you have to work around. Now, what Leesman set out to do in 2010 was very simple, was to gift you, effectively, the data necessary to deliver better experiences for employees. Back then, nobody was doing this. I think most of you thought I was completely insane because I would have a product. Do I have to use this?
Yeah, because of the stream.
Oh, okay, all right. All right, stop bellowing then. That we were completely insane to gift that data. All of the data I'm going to take you through this afternoon is freely available online. If you're good and old-fashioned, which a good chunk of this audience are, and you like print copies, you've got the latest report fresh outside. You've got the book that we published called Why Workplace. I'm going to come back to this in a second. Why the hell do we need workplaces? And then another bigger publication called The Purposeful Presence. It's all there for you to learn from. You have no excuse. There's no paywall to learn and understand what employees need. But I'm going to take you through some of that. In order to take you through it, you have to thank these people, because these are the types of organizations who've adopted the Leesman Index as their default way of measuring employees' workplace experience. And it's their data from which you will profit this afternoon in terms of the insights I'm going to give you. To date, or at end of last quarter, over 1 million employees had replied to our standardized questionnaire. It has not changed materially. There's a couple of lines we had to add, but it has not changed materially since 2010. So in terms of diversity, dependability, ability to scrutinize the data, nothing comes close. And remember, we don't do anything else. I'm not trying to sell you a real estate strategy on the back of this. I'm not trying to flog you furniture. All I want is for the employees for whom you deliver, you touch from a workplace experience perspective, to have a better experience tomorrow than the experience they had yesterday. This is the type of fun that our PhDs and our data scientists get up to. This is the wiring of workplace. This tells you which corporate activities, which things you employ employees to do, feed which corporate outcomes on the left-hand side. We've statistically proven it. And on that list are some things we called sentiment superdrivers. Simi referenced earlier, half the space, twice the experience. That's an amazing guy called Sheridan Perkins at Standard Chartered Bank came up with that idea. Sheridan has embedded sentiment superdrivers in his real estate strategy since 2017. That's how they can deliver twice the experience. The sentiment superdrivers are your bang for buck. What it also means, and I did promise I would try not to swear, doesn't mean I won't swear, if you fail on one of those sentiment superdrivers, you fucked it up. Right? You can't deliver an effective workplace if the sentiment superdrivers aren't supported. This is a client. You can find this if you dig around enough online on one of our case studies to tell you which client. Look at where the sentiment super drivers sit. Don't worry about the dots too much, but what you can see is that 4 out of 5 of the activity sentiment super drivers are better supported at home. The product you've been delivering isn't fit for purpose. That was a phrase that Peter dropped on you this morning. If home supports the average employee better than the average office, what does that say of the product you've been delivering for the last 20 years? It's time to face up to the challenges ahead. The challenge is with technology. The challenge is understanding how to use it. But the big challenge is delivering a workplace that actually works for the employee you want to come and work there. Now, the first presentation I gave you, David invited me because he saw a press release that we'd put out because we found a statistic that we thought was interesting. It was the first one where we'd seen some stabilization in the data. It told us categorically that a dissatisfaction with noise levels was the strongest statistical driver of an employee saying their workplace didn't support their personal productivity. 2013, I told you that. You didn't change anything. Acoustics is still the biggest problem in workplace. And I can tell you it's why people stay at home. Because at home they have acoustic and visual privacy. They come to the office, they don't get any of that. So why should they come to the office when it doesn't support what it is they're employed to do? And stop talking about collaboration. All of the tools that enable you to digitally collaborate are getting better week on week. Look at Miro's share price. Look at what Zoom are doing. Okay, they're laying a few people off because they made a few mistakes. But the Zoom tools, the team tools, the Cisco tools are all advancing on a daily basis. People come to workplace to connect. They're doing a bit of collaboration, they're doing some focus, they're doing all sorts of things there. But please don't obsess with the idea that you have to collaborate in person. That is not the case. But focused work is the foundation, the rock on which collaboration happens. If an employee's focused work is not supported by the workplace, at the end of the day, they will not tell you they've had a good day at work. There are 13 statistical drivers of workplace experience. Please use them. They're there. There's no cost for you to take those from us. Use them, abuse them, give employees a better day at work using those sentiment super drivers. But some of it isn't that complicated. Some of it doesn't need one of our bright statisticians or our 3 PhDs to find. It's common bloody sense. Stop putting people outside the lift lobby. Stop putting people next to the toilets. Stop putting people with their back-facing corridors. It doesn't work. But you're still doing it. And I don't know why. Those clients aren't doing it. They've changed the way they deliver corporate workplaces as a result. And they're changing the experience that employees have then when they come to those workplaces. They come to workplaces that deliver highly effective days at work. 350,000 employees have answered our office questionnaire since the start of the pandemic, and we can now put that head-to-head directly against the 387,000 employees who've told us how their homes support their experience. We launched that in May 2020. That data is the sort of thing that reveals the first slide, or the second slide I gave you from a data perspective, that tells you which activities are better supported at home than supported in the office. You have to change that. The office can fight back. It needs to fight back, but it needs to fight back by delivering a better day in the office. Now, hybrid, as Simone mentioned, is a sort of new buzzword. It's not that new. People have been working in a hybrid way. I worked in a hybrid way when I graduated in 1991 as an interior designer and an architect. You worked on site, you worked in site cabins, you worked back in the office. Forget the idea that mobility is new. We can just do it now more freely with technology, and more people are empowered to do it. I get that. But it isn't new. But there are new choices that technology and modern work practices have allowed. So when you can work and you have choice over when you work, when you have choice over the tools you use to work, and when you have location autonomy, you're a truly empowered employee. And this is what most of those organizations that I showed you on the logo board are searching for. They want to empower employees to make informed decisions about when and where they work for both parties' benefit. Don't worry about the chart too much, but the blue dots tell you the satisfaction for those employees who say they have high freedom. The yellow dots are the levels of satisfaction those activities are supported by the employees who do not have freedom. You can see on every single one of 21 key indicators, freedom and choice and empowerment deliver significant organizational and corporate benefits. Why wouldn't you do it? 30% plus or more employees agree when you ask them about whether the environment is enjoyable to work in, whether they are personally productive, or whether they are collectively productive, when they're empowered and when they're given those choices and when they're given those freedoms. So give them the freedoms. Give them the empowerment. But of course, that creates some problems. We've got to look at home. Why is it that home is so good? You know the answer to this question. I don't really need to ask it, because you just need to look at your own home work settings. In 2020, 40% of employees had a separate designated space at home they could use for the purpose of remote working. 30% didn't. 30% were sofa surfing. Look what's happened in the last 3 years. The number of employees who have a designated and private enclosed space at home is now up at 58%. And as you can see, just 13% at end of last quarter do not have a space at home. You have a new competitor in your market. The new competitor isn't the person 3 rows in front of you who's chasing the same sales target you're chasing. It's Wix, it's B&Q. It's the local builder who will offer to convert your garage into a home office. Those are your competitors. And those home offices have elastic band balls on the desk. They have the monitor propped up on last month's magazines, and they have a task chair that their employer has paid for that nobody adjusts tomorrow. And it's all way away from your design standards and your clear desk policies. Home's a pretty good place for those people. So who's deciding where that work is done? Well, as you can see here, what we've got is that organizations, generally speaking, have now worked out their strategy and have communicated it. 68% of organizations in our most recent poll have decided what their future looks like. Okay, they've decided what their future looks like. It's now your job to help them deliver. And in most cases, that involves choice and autonomy. 72% of respondents mean that, 72% of respondents say that will be hybrid in terms of the way of working. Hybrid's here. It's not going away. Okay, so how many days in office? We're getting into more familiar territory here. Peter touched on it. But first we want to look at who decides when an employee uses Office. What you can see here is 50% saying the decisions will be made at a local or business level. I'm going to come back to this in terms of the actual day in the week. Because which one of you who is a manager wants to tell your team members they're coming in on Fridays? That's not the job you want as a manager, is it? And who wants to come in on a Friday? But 62% of organizations effectively are giving some degree of autonomy then, either to local business leaders, local business directors, or to the employees themselves. So choice is here, right? This is the way the wind's blowing. Get used to it. Which days are employees visiting the offices? Well, this is a bit trickier to understand. But as you can see on the end, nearly half of the organizations are saying they will give the employee choice over which day. This is where technology can start to play a real helping hand. How often are you likely to work in your organization's workplace? If you work for a pension fund, I would start to worry. What this tells us quite clearly is that 40%, 41% of employees who've replied to our survey recently have said they intend to spend 1 day a week or less in the office. 1 day a week in the office or less means big things. Big change is about to happen. 40% less people in offices, at the very least, means what? 40% less offices is what it means. 40% less real estate is what it means. 40% less cleaners, janitors, kitchen staff, you name it. The facilities management industry is on the edge of a bloody cliff because people don't need the space. And I'm surprised that in this morning's presentations, all of which were awesome, nobody's faced up to what tomorrow looks like. It's different. It's so different. I don't think many of you actually understand how different it will be if 40% if organizations can shed easily 40% of their real estate, it's going to be monumentally different. There will be a flight to quality. Okay, but which days? This is familiar, but just to reaffirm the point I made on the last slide. The high tide is on a Tuesday at 49% of respondents selecting it. So half as much space, twice the experience. Sheridan likes to put it the other way around. Twice the experience in half the space. But it's a reality. They're a retail bank. If they can do it, anybody can do it. That means a lot of real estate sloshing around in the marketplace. But what are employees actually going to come back to when they come back? What you can see on the left here is that they're going to come back to less real estate because 69% of our recent poll respondents said they intend to reduce their real estate footprints. You can see the magnitude of how much they intend to reduce. And this is in the report that we've left out for you on the table outside if you'd like to look at this one. 2/3 of organizations are shedding real estate portfolio footprint. Now, what that means, of course, is that we have to shift the sense of ownership. Pre-pandemic, more than half of the organizations that we polled had more than 60% of their seat positions assigned to an individual. Guess what happens if you have half as much real estate and you're using it in a hybrid way? Virtually nobody gets an assigned seat anymore. If you're a change manager, you've got a lot of work to do because that's going to take a lot of getting used to. I also want to look at some of the other things that we know are changing. Some of the things in the way that we use workplace are changing. We all know that video conferencing is on the up and everything to do with telephony is on the down, right? You can see that with any visit to a workplace or any day working from home. It's not new. You have no excuse for not having seen this coming. Video-first communications will take over. You can see there's an inflection point. The pink and the blue lines are going to cross. Don't know when. Sometime next year, probably. Simi, you said it's annoying, I think. I think you maybe not use the word annoying. To have somebody sat next to you on a Teams call. It's not just annoying, it's bloody stupid. They shouldn't be doing the Teams call there. They should be doing it in an acoustically private space. Not just for them and for you and the other people on the cluster around them at the seat, but for the customer on the other end. They're getting a shitty experience with people walking behind them for the whole damn call. It's not just about your experience, it's about the people you're engaging with. So let's talk about digital equality in terms of our collaboration styles as well. What about other stuff? Hosting clients, visitors, or customers. We know that that's been catastrophically impacted by the pandemic. But it's been on the slide for ages. So has learning from others, and the yellow line's disappeared. I can't remember what that is. It's in the report. So the future is hybrid, stop denying it. The future is more and more employees working in remote locations, and the impact on them and the organizations and wider society is huge. If there's a Pret-a-Manger franchisee that you know in your family, their pension is screwed. Their investment was penniless, is worthless now. Prets are closing on Fridays. Could you believe that? If we'd said that 4 years ago at Workplace Trends, Prets are going to close on a Friday, you'd have laughed me out of the auditorium. Prets are closing on Fridays. The supply chain of the supply chain around your industry is on a cliff edge. You have to work this out. You've got to think ahead. So, the future is significantly less space. Get used to the idea. But there is a silver lining, perhaps. If you can offer a better quality space, if you can offer a space that's better than staying at home, you can go to the ballpark with your kids at the end of the trading estate around the corner, or you can take them to Disneyland. Disneyland costs you more. It's a further journey, but you're going to have an amazing experience. You need to change your approach to delivering workplace. You need to understand what employees are there to do, and you need to top out in terms of delivering the best possible experience you can. And it doesn't come that expensively, so don't worry about the budgets. We can work that stuff out together. So, we believe in a hybrid future because it's out of the box. The genie is well and truly out of the box, but the cat is also out of the bag because most workplaces pre-pandemic were pretty crappy at supporting what most employees came there to do. Just accept the fact, move on, deal with it, design an outstanding workplace for the future. Now, in a week and a half's time, we're going to launch a 3-year longitudinal study with MIT that will look at exactly these types of issues, the social impact of up to half of employees not commuting into cities anymore. And we're going to try and look at every single touch point that might ripple out to. It's going to take us 3 years to do it. because it needs to be done carefully and thoroughly and slowly. We've got a number of organizations who already opted into that study. If you'd like to be part of it, then clobber me at the end, or Paul, or Flavio, or Carl, my colleagues who happen to be here with me today as well. Purposeful Presence is available to download. I've got a few paper copies here with me for the old-fashioned crowd. Purposeful Presence says that employees come to the office with purpose in mind. They're coming there to do specific things. Make sure you deliver on the promise of supporting those things. And why workplace? Well, this crosses over, obviously, with Simone's presentation. Why workplace? Why the hell do you need a workplace? You better have an answer, because there's a whole load of investors, funding partners, pension funds, asking asking chief execs and CFOs, if all your people did pretty well for a year working from home, why do we need a workplace anyway? If you can't answer that question, if you can't pin something on why an organization needs a workplace, and I'm sorry to tell David and Martin and the rest of the crew, but this conference is going to be on a slow and dwindling decline in terms of its relevance. You have to answer that question. What is it that workplace does? Why do you have it? What value do they give? And how can you give the employee an outstanding experience should they choose to go there? And before that button turns red in 3 seconds, I'm going to leave you just with one thought to think about. Pre-pandemic, almost everybody we speak to said that the cost of commuting to work was part of a cost of living. We've now all been through a cost of living crisis, and guess what's happened? On the days we go to work, the cost of commuting is now the cost of working. Everybody's changed their position on the cost to get there. So it's like your restaurant, your favorite restaurant, or your theme park, or anything else that you pay to consume. If at the end of the day it doesn't deliver on the promise, guess what? You look at how much it costs you to get there, and you really, really reflect on whether you're going to go back tomorrow. So that's your challenge, and I'm sorry, this has been the doom and gloom presentation of today, but I truly believe you have an immense opportunity ahead, but you've got to see the change coming, right? This is like being dinosaurs and saying, whoa, amazing sunsets, because a meteor hit the planet. It's getting a bit chilly. You're going to die out, folk, if you don't work out what the future workplace looks like and what it has to deliver for. I'll leave you with that bombshell.
I told you he pulled no punches. What about the 70% of workers in workplaces that aren't offices?
Good question. Good question, Martin. The thing I'd ask you to remember about the 70% of people who aren't in offices is that almost all of those places have offices supporting. So we work with Jaguar Land Rover. The manufacturing plant operates more people and more space, but the office is what keeps that space fed. Same with the hospital. If there weren't administrators planning surgical interventions, then apart from an accident and emergency department, then nobody would be furnishing them with consumables. Offices are part of almost every part of our daily lives somewhere. Now, the other spaces, I think we've also got to consider, because I think healthcare has exactly the same issue. Wouldn't it be great if an FM tender came out and the key objective of the FM tender was to reduce post-operative infections? Wouldn't it be great if on the key performance indicators it said we want to completely eradicate failed discharges? But they don't, because they associate FM with emptying the waste and cleaning the floors. We've got to get facilities management to a point where it is identified as one of the critical indicators. We've got one client who tried really hard, this is back on office space, but they tried in their new 3-year FM contract to go out with, very loosely speaking, a brief that said, give us the highest quality experience you dare price. And that was it, right? Just price the highest quality experience you dare price. You'll still win based on the competitiveness of the overall offer, but we want to offer employees an outstanding experience. Just tell us how much it costs. And their procurement team said nobody will reply. They won't understand it. They wouldn't dare reply. They'll think you're taking the piss. They will not even look at it. And so the client who really, really wanted to give every employee in their organization an outstanding experience was quashed by the guys and girls in legal and procurement. So I think it's about looking at actually what is it there for.
Yeah. I could get into a debate with you. We can do that later. Anybody else got one for Tim? Down the front here.
Thanks. Just listening to you and all of those sentiment drivers that you spoke about, a lot of businesses talk about an increase in productivity, but is that actually something that can just go in the bin because it's very hard to measure?
No, definitely not. I mean, well, you've got a problem. You're right to raise the P word. You will never be given credit for improving productivity. Forget it. It'll be the people in product development, or it'll be, I don't know, a new partner joins the firm, right? Oh, is that you? Are you one of those people? Yeah, who don't let any of these people take credit, right, for the productivity increase? Yeah, you fell into that. Thank you, Simi, for pointing it out. Yeah, there's too many other people who will take credit for a productivity increase, so forget it. It is not worth chasing. But you can ask people a very simple and totally transferable question that you can ask the chairman or the person in the post room, which is, does the environment we provide for you enable to do your job well? Can you work productively in the environment we provide for you? That's a universal question. And I think if we stuck to that, I would say that because that's our universal question. But if the whole industry came around that one question alone, forget the rest of our methodology, if we came around that question, then I think we'd be in a whole lot better place than we are right now in terms of improving the value of workplace. Because remember that, it's a bit of a tabloid version of our data, and Dr. Peggy Roth will kill me for using it again, but the average employee is better served in the average home than in the average office, right? It's really simple. Now, if the average office, bear in mind these are Leesman clients as well, right? They only come and talk to us because they're interested in employee experience. We've got a slight sort of biased group, if you like, in terms of the data that we have. So if the average Leesman office respondent is better served by the average home, it shows you quite how big that gap is.
Big hand, please, Tim Rose.